Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel, and I'm bringing you another mermaid for the month of MerMay. Okay, this is another gouache painting. Well, at least I would say it's about, I don't know, 90% gouache and 10% other things. Okay, so yeah, it's mixed media, but it's majority gouache. So I came up with this sketch concept that you briefly saw there and decided, okay, this is going to be the next painting. I used an 18-inch needlepoint loop. This is the biggest I've ever done. Actually, this is my second time only ever doing it. Yes, I've painted on watercolor paper many times, but I have this huge roll of watercolor paper that it was just sitting in the corner. So I said, you know what? I want to use this. Really quick, let me talk about, before I continue, I tried to show you, but I forgot that I'm going to speed this up, so you're not going to see me actually showing you. But I tried to show you the Jane Davenport Mermaid markers, and I tried to use them in this piece, and that was an epic fail. I like the markers. I do. The colors are brilliant. It works like a regular brush pen, except for it's ink in there that's water soluble, so you can kind of give a watercolory feel to your artwork. But it's not for detail, and I'm gonna tell you why it's not for detail. At least with the pen set that I got, they tend to flow a little too loosely. So even though you're not applying any pressure to the actual brush pen itself to allow for more liquid to flow through the tip, it still happens. And that can leave you with a whole lot of ink in one little spot that you did not intend for it to be there. And then you're trying to dab all of that ink up with your paper towel or whatever in hopes that it didn't ruin your already nicely progressing work of art. So you can use it in fine art. I'm not saying that you can't, but it's definitely a tool that I would find to be better used, like, say, for example, in the water area of this painting or in the background, but not on fine detail. You definitely don't want to do it for that. At least the batch of pens that I got, which are great, like I said, but just, fine details, maybe they weren't intended for that purpose. I don't know. But now back to what I was saying. I got this 18-inch needlepoint loom and decided, because I have all this paper, I'm going to just keep on with this theme until I want to shop my stash. Aside from actually buying the looms, I thought it would be a great idea to just shop my stash. And this also is a lot more affordable than looking for a frame. Besides, the way I create and seal and varnish my art, even when it's watercolor or gouache, it still will work being able to be either mounted on a wood canvas or worked like this. And so that's what I wanted it to be able to do. I didn't want to always have to worry about getting it framed and put behind light fast glass. Say that five times fast. But yeah, that's why I did it. Also, you see me just going over a lot of the areas in this painting over and over again. And I kind of go paint with gouache the way I do with oil paint, because that's what I initially was, an oil painter. I mean, I still am, but that's my main medium. So because I put all of my gouache and kind of pre-mix my colors in some cases into a palette, they don't come out to me as rich and brilliant and opaque as they would if I used them straight from the tube. So to kind of get around that, I just work in layers, because it's something that I was used to doing, building up layers anyway, to get that opacity and to get that richness in the colors and the depth and then the different shadows and all of that. So it was just, the beautiful thing is it dries a lot faster than oil paint. And if it's not drying fast enough, I can put a blow dryer to it. So lately, I've been finding myself just grabbing my gouache palette. Now, I told you about the Jane Davenport markers. The other mediums I used were ink. I used two types of inks. I used the Daler Raleigh. I'm sorry, Ronnie. How do you say this? Let me look. Daler Rowney. I'm sorry. Artist acrylic inks. And also I used the Kuretake brush pen in black. And I think you'll see me use that to do her lashes. I tried to do the brows the first time with the Mermaid marker and it didn't work out. So I just used my gouache paint for that and went over it. Let's see, what else did I use? I also used a little bit, when you see me go in and do the pink highlights in her pink hair, I use watercolor in that instance in pink. This really pretty pink watercolor that I have that I can't mix with my gouache paints for some strange reason. I guess I have to just actually go to an art supply store where they sell a good variety of gouaches and see if I can find that pink. I know Holbein makes a really great brand of gouache, and I've looked at the that brand on Dick Blick, and they seem to have a lot of different vivid bold colors, kind of like an assortment of colors like the oil paints by Gamblin, where you can find neon pinks and stuff like that. I think Holbein has like a designer gouache where you can get bright colors like that, so I'm definitely going to make an investment into that. The brand I use right now currently is Reeves. It works good for me, but like I said, I want to get some unique colors that you can't really mix and get from another gouache brand. The other thing I used was the Pearl paint by, let me see what this is. This Pearl paint is Yasumoto, and I used that in the water, in her eyeshadow, and on her crown, different parts of the coral. And I think I used a little bit of it also in the sky. Yeah, I did. I love the sky. I really love how that turned out. Actually, the whole painting just really came together nicely. I had it in my imagination, but execution and imagination don't always seem to go hand in hand sometimes. But it turned out better than I actually imagined, and I'm really happy with it. I love painting eyes, you guys, because it's done right. They can just pull you in. You know, they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I really think it's true. And let other people tell it. I tend to paint eyes that look like mine. Although I try to practice other eye shapes, I do tend to pick eyes that look a lot like mine. And I think that that's something that a lot of artists do subconsciously. I didn't do this intentionally. It was something that kind of happened, I guess, subconsciously. But I really think a lot of artists, particularly women, who paint portraiture of women, tend to paint pictures that look a lot like themselves, even if it's not intentional. I see the main ones that I like to follow, that I'm big fans of, their work looks like them. Now, as far as men who paint a lot of portraiture, I'm not sure. I've never asked any male artists. I don't think I have. But I'm pretty sure that maybe they're female muse, because a lot of times it is the same face. Is maybe perhaps someone that is familiar to them, you know, and subconsciously that's just what they gravitated towards painting. Some people actually have a legitimate muse though, like it might be a spouse or a sister or a child or their mother or whatever. I think subconsciously when I look at my art, I see not only myself because of the eyes, but I see my mother and my sister and my daughter. And I think as I've gotten really into trying to do better with making my art a little bit closer to realism, although I still want to keep a very stylized style to it, I've tried to play around, like I said, with other shaped noses and lips and eyes so that they don't all look exactly alike, especially when I'm trying to get better as an artist and improve my skills, even when I'm creating portraits of other people. Yes, still be in my likeness and in my style, but I still want to look like them and not tend to gravitate and move in the direction of looking more like the paintings I typically paint. I hope that makes sense. The other thing I use in this is color pencil. That's what you see me using now. And I use Prismacolors. That's the brand that I have. I have not tried the Jane Davenport magic wands. I guess that's what she calls them. But they're color pencils. I have not tried them. I do have some Faber-Castells in here as well in my collection, but mostly Prismacolors. I like them both though. A lot of people complain about Prismacolors lead being too soft or breaking, but the breaking happens a lot of times in the shipping process. You know, once it leaves the manufacturer, it goes to the post office and things get dropped, so you have to rebake them when you first get them. What I did was just leave them in the car and then let them cool down, and it makes anything that might be broken inside that piece of wood whole again. But yeah, I still like them. I don't care. I guess I don't use them enough as my main medium to be frustrated with them. Like some people use nothing but color pencils to do their art, or that is one of their major main mediums. And so yeah. So I mentioned that I tried the Mermaid markers. That was a fail. But I also used the pearl paints by Yoshimoto. I used ink. I used the Kuretake brush pen, and the white ink was De La Rowney. And let's see, the Prismacolor pencils. My gouache brand is Reeves. Did I cover everything? Yeah, I think I did. I seal it with the Liquitex gloss, but I add I have a separate jar of it that I add iridescent medium to. I use the matte gloss. It's not the glossy. I use the matte when I'm doing my watercolors and my gouache, because technically they're supposed to be dried matte, right? But before I actually use a wet medium to varnish them, I seal them with a fixative. I do like 2 layers or 2 coats of a spray fixative. I let one dry and then go back over it with the second coat, and sometimes even a third coat if I'm being really anal about it, just to make sure nothing smudges or smears. And then I'll go in, and after that dries, and use the Liquitex liquid varnish. And like I said, I like to add iridescent medium. Not a lot though, because you can make your painting cloudy. Just enough that when the painting dries, you'll see this really nice, sparkly, glistening in places even where you didn't use pearl paint. This was interesting right here. I was trying to create the natural droplets to kind of give like the effect of stars, but trying to do it by just using like the splatter technique was not working. The splats were coming out way too big. I had to sop them up really quick with the paper towel and just go in and manually do them with a dotter. But it still turned out really nice, you know. I just didn't want all the dots to be the same size, but it worked out where they weren't. So anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this. I did. I really loved the way it turned out, and I hope you guys like and subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. And also, if you want, just drop me a comment, and that way I'll know you were here. All right, guys. See you in the next video. Grace and peace, fam.